Guru Nation, welcome back. How's it going? One 49er fan to another. We got Marcel Ruiz. Marcel Ruiz and I both just came off of a Latinos in Clinical Research live Zoom webinar where we discussed, we discussed a lot. We discussed Marcel's career. We discussed how he got in. We discussed a little bit of IMG and his early story. We got the full 50-minute interview underneath this video, and if you're listening on the podcast, links to the show note is there as well. So we're not going to get into his story again. We just did that. You guys go watch that. I want to get into, because I took some notes during that interview, I want to get into how Marcel was able to have the persistence to, I guess, continue and not give up. That's one of the things. And another thing, I want to talk about LinkedIn, how he used LinkedIn to grow his brand really quickly in a short period of time. And his LinkedIn's underneath this video description as well. And finally, Marcel is somebody who's followed my videos. At least he says he has. I think he has. Followed, did the recommendations, didn't do any of our academies, although that would have helped too, but he didn't need it. I always tell you guys, you don't need it, but we have everything set up for you in case you do, right? So you either put time or you put money, right? That's one of the, there's no other option. Either you're going to put blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of it, or a little less blood, sweat, and tears with some money. That's basically the only options you have. There's nothing else you can do. So Marcel is an inspiration, living proof that what I talk about works. And this is especially important for international medical graduates, but it's really important for anybody who's trying to get in. So Marcel, thank you for coming on after a wonderful presentation on Latinos in Clinical Research. Thank you for coming on for a mini little inspiration.
Thank you for having me on, Dan. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So how did you do it? Let's go to the first video you watched. What were you thinking? Research is not for me. Research is for me. What were you thinking? What was going through your head?
Well, I got exposed to research working at a hospital. For those of you that want to find out about my background and my story, Dan's going to post a video. I'll go through in more detail about my work experience. But I was at a hospital working, and it was a large academic medical center. A lot of research going on, and I got exposed to a lot of the clinical trials that were going on there. And that's pretty much, from there, that's where the interest kind of came. It sparked my interest. During my med school years, we do not get any exposure to industry-funded clinical trials, right? There's a lot of it's academia, right? So you do get some research experience, but a lot of it are observational studies. You don't have any IND type studies. And so when I came to this hospital and I started working there, I saw a lot of. I'd get called in I was my background here in the U.S. was a medical interpreter. So I would get called in to interpret for a lot of these limited English proficient patients that the study coordinator, the PI, would need to have an interpreter present. And at the hospital, that's it's a requirement. In order to consent the patient that only spoke Spanish, they would have to call in the interpreter, right? So, and especially during the informed consent process. So that's where I got my exposure. I got really interested, and then I looked up your videos, Dan, on just kind of looked up clinical research on YouTube. And the first video that I came into was the 4-hour long video where the crash course into clinical research. And I saw the video. I thought it was great. It's a really great perspective, really good a bird's eye view of what goes on in all of clinical research, right? Who are the stakeholders? I highly recommend, if you haven't, watch Dan's video. And also, from there, I subscribed to your channel and started watching a lot of your content. And I have to say that a lot of your videos really gave me a lot of knowledge and information on how to proceed to actually, get into research. Um, I also I recommend your book. I bought the book, The
Thank you.
Comprehensive Guide to Clinical Research. Dan Sfera and Chris Saubert recommended. A very great book.
Thank
I
you.
actually got the physical copy. I didn't get the audiobook. Um,
Ah, the audiobook's great. You don't need it anymore, but that's great. That's two books because we go off script. Like every paragraph, we stop and talk. Me and Chris just have a conversation.
I enjoyed the book. It helped me out a lot. It really did. Exactly what the title says. It's the comprehensive guide to clinical research,
Man, thank
and
you.
so that, having all that, you watching Dan's videos, reading the book, um, kind of really gave me the idea, or gave me the confidence to actually go on and pursue trying to getting into clinical research.
So, how did
From
you sustain this enthusiasm? Because I'm with you this whole part. Like what you just said is common for a lot of people, but they don't make it through to the other end like you did.
um,
I would say the vast majority don't. So you have this initial enthusiasm where, and like I could see the people LinkedIn messaging me and emailing me, and then the ones who go through and say I actually ended up getting a job, very few. But the ones that keep asking how, it's just like, there's a lot of them. So how do you sustain this? Because it's initial peak of enthusiasm, and then this is where a big question mark lies. And I think the variable is on the individual, what you do after this initial enthusiasm.
I think it also comes down to how you handle these. I mean, there's always going to be bumps in the road, right? And during your goal, whatever you're trying to, if you're trying to get into research, you're going to have these bumps down, along the road. It's just how you overcome them. Continue to persist. Um, learn as much as you can. Like before I actually went out to apply, I read your book. I did a lot, saw a lot of your content. I did apart from your channel, I do watch other people that are in the space as well. So I try to, really get in as much information that I can, how to get in. And I think that's what, I think that's just me. That helped me. That's just the way I am. I like to consume as much information that I can, so that I can, make my decision and see how I can approach the situation.
But you're human like everyone else, right? There's you on the Latinos in Research interview, you said you asked 10 doctors to
Yes.
volunteer, and all 10 said no. The 11th said yes. By number three, like, what are you feeling internally? Do you feel defeated, or like,
You know, I,
take
I
me through this?
I didn't feel it as like a personal attack on me, like, like something's wrong with me. I'm more just kind of looked at the situation. Okay, maybe, and the way I saw it is, okay, this doctor really doesn't have time. A lot of doctors are busy.
They don't. A lot
They
of them
don't. They
don't.
they don't have time. So it's just it's a numbers game. Eventually, you're going to run into. And funny that you brought that up. I only not only did I ask the doctors that worked at the hospital that I was working at, but I also reached out to sites. Like research
Okay.
sites in my area. I put in a quick Google Maps search, clinical research. I think sites or just
Yeah.
research, and I made a list of the different sites that were in my area. I also went personally to these sites, and one of the places that I went to, they were gonna allow me to as well become a intern
Yeah.
as a research assistant. But then at that point, I already had the other ones at the hospital, so I had too much
Ah.
going on.
Okay.
But a great thing that somebody can do is also, go to Google Maps, put in clinical research, look at the sites in your area.
That's awesome, Marcel. What did you do when you walked into that site? How did it work? Because a lot of people, I'm telling them to do this. I don't know how many are doing it. You're like one of the
Well,
first ones I talked to who actually had like a positive outcome because of it.
well, before I actually went down there, I called, right.
Mm.
I'd call these sites first, and try to get past the and speak to somebody, either the site manager or even I'd ask for the doctor so and so that's in charge of the
Mm,
clinic, right?
yeah.
And that you don't typically get through right away on the
No.
first try.
Even I don't get through right away to my PI.
Yeah, but I got through to one. I think it was a study coordinator, and she set up. I asked her, as like I mentioned to her that I'm interested in maybe volunteering. And I told her my background. I have a medical background, or if in the whatever the case may be, if you don't have if you have some kind of experience as a medical assistant, or if you're a I don't know, if you're a CNA, whatever type of experience
I'll
you
tell
have,
you
whatever
what's
you can
big.
bring
If
to the
you can
table.
manage an Instagram or a Facebook or a TikTok, every site needs that. They just don't have time.
Yeah. And so I kind of leverage that, and the fact that I also speak Spanish in my just in my
Ooh,
area.
big time.
It's a huge Hispanic Spanish speaking population. So you kind of speaking Spanish is a definite plus, right? Especially in a lot of these clinics. So
Absolutely. Sí se puede.
se puede, claro que
Uh,
sí.
Marcel, let's go now to we talked about your resume. Ashley Margot, who helped you make your resume, was on
Yes.
the Latinos in Clinical Research one. So if you want to discuss if you want to see him discuss transferable skills and hear it, it's kind of cool. You hear it from Ashley and him and Marcel at the same time. It's kind of cool. We're not going to do that here, but link underneath. But I want to go because we didn't focus on your LinkedIn profile. I took a glance at your LinkedIn profile during that webinar. You're at like almost 1,200 followers.
Yes.
That's a lot for somebody who just started in research. Did you have a LinkedIn prior to doing research, or is that a tool that you incorporated for your job hunt?
I incorporated LinkedIn I had a LinkedIn profile. Actually, no, I did. I had one created, but it wasn't. You know what? I didn't really get my LinkedIn up and running until started working with Ashley. Um,
Really?
yeah, I didn't have a LinkedIn before that.
Okay, okay. That's
Ash
impressive. That's
Ashley really
impressive.
really showed me the importance of actually using LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has been a great tool.
So that nice
Um,
headshot you have, everything you have there is by design. There's like nothing by accident on your LinkedIn right now.
everything, even the photos, the background, everything's you know, it's all algorithm based, and it's very very optimized. So it's a great tool if you know how to use it. I didn't know how to use LinkedIn. Um, I didn't know its potential,
They don't
right?
teach you that in med school.
That's not something we learn in med school.
Yeah, so to grow that quickly in like less than a year is impressive. And what's been your main strategy for growing it? Like interacting with other people's posts, or
Yes.
just mass connecting with people, or like what are you doing?
There's different things that you can do. One thing that you can do is um, you know, go to what I was using it for is mainly job. At first, it was well. Here's the thing: in order for you to be seen and that by recruiters and by companies and by headhunters, you actually have to play a little bit with the algorithm. And so, one of the tips that Ashley gave me was like, okay, first you need to have a minimum of 500 or people on your LinkedIn, right? Connections
Wow.
in order to be seen. So that's something that that was
A
one of
lot
my
of
goals.
people right now watching are already behind. So that's your first step, guys.
And then another thing is you want to keep it based upon what industry you're looking to get into, right? If it's clinical research, so you want to reach out to, if your goal is to become a CRA, you might, something you can do is seek out CRAs within the industry. Maybe send them a request, send them a nice, a hi, how are you? My name is so and so, and simple, simple message, not asking really for anything, but just kind of networking, reaching out, and getting to that 500 connection. You could say like base or point, right? That's when you start getting more exposure, and that's when people can actually see you.
I see.
So that's just one of the tips that Ashley gave me.
The first 500 is the hardest. So
Yes.
now you're a clinical project coordinator. We talk a lot in the Latinos in Clinical Research interview on what that is and what Marcel does. Um, I imagine you're getting hit up now by recruiters all the time because now you have valid industry experience. So how is that working for you?
Yes, I do. I get a lot of different offers. I, and these offers come. Sometimes it's just a message from some, people that are not in my network, just recruiters. They'll send you a job offer, an in-mail.
Hmm.
So I do get those, and lately I've been getting a lot of recruiters for CRA positions, for CRA roles. Not a
Really?
lot, but a handful. Yes.
And is that a goal for you? Because I know you have a little girl, right? A daughter.
Yes.
So is
Yes.
that something you want to do, or because I
Um.
know it's tough with little kids to do
Yeah.
CRA?
Well, no, my girl is a little bit bigger now.
Oh,
She's
okay,
grown,
okay.
so that could be an option, right? Being a CRA, I do see myself possibly going into a CRA role.
You could
So
make a good CRA. The IMGs typically make really good CRAs because what Judy was saying on the interview, they know the medications, the contraindications. They know patient
yeah,
safety better than most, better than the coordinator.
I can see how that can be an advantage to becoming a CRA. Yes, I can see how that can fit
Wow.
in.
So you got a lot going on. Keep growing your LinkedIn, Marcel. We'll definitely do a part two. It's going to be interesting. You haven't even been in clinical research for a year yet. So now that you're on the map, now that you're on my radar, and by the way, you've been very engaged in like most of my live streams, so thank you for that. You give good comments to other people, good suggestions for other IMGs. If you want, maybe we'll splice this part up right here for Instagram or for TikTok. What or a YouTube short? What advice in under a minute do you have for international medical graduates who want to work in research?
My advice to the IMGs out there is if you're trying to break into clinical research, um, one of the things that I learned later on is that you kind of want to first get your foot in the door. It really depends on your goals. If you want to get into a CRO, if you're looking to work at a research site, but if you're trying to go the CRA route and you want to, go work at a CRO or a pharmaceutical or a sponsor, you want to first try to get your foot in the door because I had to learn this kind of the hard way. CRA is not it's not an entry level role, right? Even if you're a doctor, right? Even if you're a medical graduate, you have a lot of knowledge in medicine, but you really don't know what it entails to be a clinical research associate, right? A CRA.
Right.
So just um, sometimes you got to be a little bit humble. you know, be humble. Take on the volunteer experience, right? I remember hearing a comment where, yeah, IMGs can do a lot. You can do a lot better with your time, but if you're bringing some sort of value to somebody, volunteering and learning, I think that's probably the best thing you can do, right? That's a great thing you can do, gain experience in the field, and at the same time, you're helping somebody out. So it's my advice would be get your foot in the door, and research right now is really fast paced. It's a great time to get in, great time to advance professionally within research, and the sky's the limit. There's a lot of it's a high ceiling. There's a lot of different opportunities within clinical research.
Absolutely. Very well said, Marcel. Can't wait to do a part two. We'll follow up with your career both here and on Latinos in Clinical Research. And for those that watch the videos, you look out in the comments and the live streams. You might see Marcel in there and just tell him hi, tell him you saw him, tell him, if he inspired you, let him know. Thank you so much, Marcel. Everybody, LinkedIn underneath for Marcel and interview to the Latinos in Clinical Research full interview on there. So thank you very much, Marcel, for coming on.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. And we'll catch you all later. Bye bye.